Hey, how's it going? Welcome to my channel. This is my first video I'm posting, so if you guys have any critiques, criticisms, or comments that you're like, hey, I like that point, please feel free to comment below. I'll try my best to respond. Kind of busy, as I think most of us are during our lives, but I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can, I promise. So without further ado, here's my first video. It's basically about wage slavery. If you clicked on this video, you probably want to know what it's about. So let's get into it. So wage slavery basically means that you're able to work and live, but only to work more, right? So you work 40 hours a week or 50 hours a week or 60 hours a week at, let's say you get minimum wage, right? Let's say it's $7.25 an hour that you're getting, and multiply that by 40. That's technically the work week because we had regulations put in place dozens of years ago at this point, decades ago. It's the 1930s. If you guys wanted to know more about that, that was the battle of, I believe it was for Ford. It was the Ford manufacturing facility in Detroit. The workers there were working about 50, 60 hours a week, working on Saturday and Sunday as well, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the gist. They started to strike because they were tired of working that long and they were not getting compensated fairly. And so from that, there was actually a worker that got shot and killed from a policeman. Again, I want you guys to understand the frame of reference and the point of view at the time. The police were there basically just to enforce Ford's rules because Ford was making this country a lot of money, right? And we can't have anything to stop that. So they sent some police in to try to quell the uprising, as it were. And one of the police officers got a little bit too bold and shot somebody dead. The strikers, protesters, were actually consolidated enough that they took a lot of offense to that, and they fought back. Go figure, when somebody dies next to you, that's your brother, that's your cousin, that's your worker that you work with for 10 years, and he dies from a strike. I believe that a revolt is, what is the saying? Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So that's what happened. I think this is 1938, 1934. I forget the exact year. But from that, we got a minimum work week, or we got a maximum work week. I apologize. A maximum work week of 40 hours a week. And if you worked more than that, they provided you with overtime pay. That means that those workers, whether or not they were going to be working more than 40 hours a week, they were going to get paid 1.5 times whatever wage they were at before per hour that they were working. So if it's $7.25 an hour and you worked overtime, you got yourself, what is that, 50% of $7.25? You got $3.62, something like $11 an hour, whatever. Besides the point, I want you guys to understand that is what it took in order for this country to start getting a fucking labor rights law. Excuse my language. I'm passionate about this, and I think you'll see that as this video continues. So if you're not already offended by what I'm saying, then please, let's continue. So wage slavery, that's what it's about. So you work 40 hours a week in this country at whatever wage you want to work at. If you don't have enough money in order to not work for a few days, that's called wage slavery. If you don't have enough money in order to provide the necessities that you need, like food, shelter, water, and I would consider at this point, unfortunately, electricity and internet even to be part of the necessities to be a participating citizen in this country, in order for you to have access to more jobs, more opportunities, and the same opportunities that everybody else has access to. I think that those two things should probably be put into there as well. But let's say you work 40 hours a week, you get whatever that is. Let's say the minimum wage right now, it's $7.25 an hour. If you're going to be working 40 hours a week, which is very rare, because if you work 40 hours a week in this country, at this point, you'll have to get benefits provided by your employer. Not necessarily that they have to pay for it, but that they have to offer you some kind of a benefit from working 40 hours a week, whether that be, it's medical, healthcare. It's just healthcare, really, is what it is. And they don't want to fucking do that because that's horrible. Why would they want to do that? That affects their bottom line. So working in this country at minimum wage, $7.25 an hour, you get about $882 after taxes, okay? That's not nearly enough to live on in even a single bedroom, single bathroom home in this country. The average single bedroom, single bathroom home in this country is $1,216. So let me just say that again. If you work a minimum wage job, a federally minimum wage job at $7.25 an hour, you will not make nearly enough money to be able to afford a one bedroom, one bathroom apartment in the country of the United States. Okay, so you're making, after taxes, $882. The average cost for just rent of a one bedroom, one bathroom apartment is $1,216. You just aren't. You just can't. So what are you going to do? I don't know. But I want people to start understanding that this is not something to say, oh, well, this is an intermediary job. This isn't for a family of four, minimum wage jobs. And I concur. I don't think that they should provide for, a family of four. If you're a mom and a dad and you got two kids, I don't believe that you should be able to afford enough to be able to do all that stuff. But that's honestly besides the point. I think you should be able to afford enough to fucking make your own way, though, right? I think you should be able to afford enough to be able to buy food, close out your rent, cover your utilities, and on top of that, I think most of us have to afford a car, insurance, renter's insurance. There's all this insurance baloney that's going on right now that's required federally by law, or sorry, maybe it's by state as well, but I'm not really sure about that. So let's just say, for an example, if companies employ people at a federal minimum wage, and if they kept that person on for 40 hours a week, like I was saying, it's almost impossible to see that these days. By the end of the month, that employee is taking home $882 after a modest 23% tax, and the average rent for a one-bed, one-bath apartment across the United States is $1,216 a month as of June 2019. That means not only is the minimum wage not enough for an apartment, but if they roomed with one other person, that would split the rent to about $608 per month, which leaves the employee with about $274 to buy food, cover utilities, pay for their cell phone if they have a cell phone, but odds are they can't afford one, so I don't know what's going on there, but more than likely they have access to a cell phone, and pay for gas. And I didn't mention healthcare because, well, that's a joke. You're not affording anything else on that. So what I'm trying to get at is, if these companies that employed these people at $7.25 an hour at the federally mandated minimum wage, if these companies had to actually pay for these employees to just live, if they paid for their food, if they had their own housing, if they had their own healthcare, if they had their own everything, if they had their own everything provided by the companies, and they didn't get a lick of anything, they just kept working at this place day in and day out. And then they slept in their company provided home, and they ate their company provided meals, and they had their company provided healthcare, all of that stuff. The company would have to pay more per person to stay in business if they were literally just paying for these people to live. Now, a lot of companies have decided to not do the federal minimum wage, right? Because that's a bad look. That's just a bad look. But in reality, if you're doing a federal minimum wage job, you just should be able to afford a fraction of a house. You know what I'm talking about? You shouldn't have to rely on bunking with other people in a home or in an apartment. You shouldn't have to do that, but we are. So I just wanted to take that into account. I wanted to just kind of highlight that for anybody that cares about this issue at all. I hope that this was informative. Hopefully I'll be getting to a little bit more in depth with the labor rights that we have in this country and how we got the labor rights we have and how we're slowly losing the labor rights that we have. But that's for another video. Thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate you. Again, if you like this video, please comment below. If you didn't like this video, please comment below. I kind of want to know what to do and what not to do in these things. So yeah, appreciate you. Love you. Take it easy, guys.